Ah, so that's what our project is. A wall mount TV we're going to install. And I'm going to install that up on this wall somewhere. And it's in a small bedroom. Here's the bed over here, so it's going to have to go up in there. But before I get all gung-ho on all that, I've got to make myself a material list because I don't want to just get in there and plug that in. You'll see. There's the plug and the cable outlet for the TV. Now I could just go ahead and bolt it up there and have the wires stick down and hang down and plug it into there, no problem. But I don't like to do things like that. I want all of this stuff to not show. I don't want the wires coming down, so that's why I've got to make a material list, because I'm going to take that plug right there and I've got to take that out of the wall and I've got to fish a wire up, and I'm going to cut in another box up here behind the TV location. You see, I'm going to fish a wire down to this plug outlet down here. I'll probably end up leaving the plug and not just put a blank plate there like a junction box, but I'll probably leave the plug in case they end up having a dresser underneath the TV, which they probably will. Maybe this dresser or a little bit lower dresser, I suppose. And then I won't see the TV plug hanging down the wall. I'll do the same thing for the cable. The cable, I'll fish another cable up through the wall back behind the TV and fish that down the wall too. Do you see what I mean? I'll bet you another one of your questions is, hey, what about if I want a DVD player hooked up to this TV? What about that, Joe? What are you going to do with those wires? You know, I've seen some people, they install the TV up here, they fish the wires down the wall like I'm going to show you, and then they've got the DVD wires hanging out below that, coming down to a countertop, a desk, a dresser, and then you see those wires. Well, I'm going to try to figure out what to do with that too. I'm going to get some longer DVD cord ends. I'm going to fish those down the wall too, and I'm probably going to have them come out of a box down low, maybe this same box here or something, and then I'll have to have long ones so that then I can take those wires and sneak them back up behind a dresser and then poke them into a DVD player. Now I'm going to check this plug. This is the plug and the cable for the TV, and here I've got a little drop light here, and I've got that plugged into there. Now I found the associated breaker. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna turn it off and see if this goes off, because I never want you to ever work on a hot plug, because I'm gonna pull that plug out of the wall. Okay, I guess that was the right circuit. See, I only had to check one because I knew I had a pretty good idea that the one I was turning was this one. So if you read the panel like I was showing you, it might take you 2 or 3 turns on different breakers, but you should get it pretty easily. That way you don't have to turn on and off all 20 of your breakers or however many you got. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and pull that plug out. I'm just going to double check it to make sure I get the right size wire. Now here's a mistake that some people do. Here's that same plug here. Before I pull it out, you know, some people will look at this and say, oh, I know what circuit that's on. That's on a 15 amp breaker. Because nobody would ever install a 15 amp plug on a 20 amp circuit. And that's what's happened here. And lots of electricians do this. Lots of inspectors let that go, and I'm not quite sure why. But this is a 15 amp breaker receptacle, and the reason why I know that, the 20 amp receptacles usually have a little line coming across this way, and it's a little notch that comes across here and one there. When you see a plug like that, you know that is definitely on a 20 amp circuit. Now see, this one doesn't have that, does it? There's no notch right here. It'd be a light little notch coming across just like that, coming out there and one there. But so if you ever see a plug like this, don't make the assumption that is 14 gauge wire running to that on a 15 amp circuit, because sadly that might not be the case. Alright, so I know that I'm going to need 12 gauge wire for my jaw, because I'm going to have to take a wire. Ultimately I'm going to have a wire from there, and I'm going to go up behind where I'm going to put the TV and put a cut-in box in there. So I need a cut-in box there, I need some wire, I need some wire nuts, I need, more than likely I'm gonna take this plug and outlet box out of the wall and put a cut-in box there too, because it might be kind of hard to fish a wire from this box straight up without taking this box out. And you know what, I might even try to do it, but it's kind of tricky to do that. But I always like to be prepared, so I'll get an extra cut-in box for that. And this box here I'll probably be able to save. I don't know if I have to pull that out of the wall or not. In fact, I'll probably unscrew that too. I know I'm going to need a cut-in box for that up high too, and I may need another one down here. So you know what, I think I better just take this apart just to see what kind of box it is. Here's something else I decided too. Lots of times when you raise this plug, you could take this plug out and raise it up, put a blank plate here and use this as a junction box. Just tie your new wires into there, and then you don't have a plug here. But I don't want to do that, because they're going to have a dresser, a set of drawers right here below the TV. So I want to keep this plug down here too. That way, in case they want to plug, you know, first off, your DVD player, you want to plug that in there. And if you have a lamp on top of your dresser, you want something there too. So I know I'm going to have to get another one of these plugs, just like this one, for up high, where behind the TV. So this one is rectangular. You got to look at that, because what I like to do is match everything existing conditions. I don't want to get a cheap old plug that's got the two duplex plugs individual. You know what I mean? It looks a little bit different than this. So I'm liking that. And this cover is a vinyl cover. It's not an ivory plastic cover, it's a vinyl one, and it pushes in kind of. I can tell the difference, so I'm going to get one of those too. And this is white. It's not an off-white. Sometimes they have off-white plugs. So that's all that kind of stuff that you kind of need to keep in mind, so when you get done, it doesn't even look like you're there. What you got to do is just going to set the TV down here. Be real careful with it, because you don't want to scratch or mark up the face of it or anything like that. And I got out the mounting bracket assembly directions. You just kind of have to read that and see what you're going to do. Each TV has different ones, so don't be too concerned about this one. Your bracket assembly might be different, but you just have to go through the same steps. Figure out what base goes on here and all that. Figure out, once you have the TV flat, the main thing you want to do is make sure you remember what's the top of the TV and what's the bottom, so you don't get mixed up backwards and start measuring from the top thinking it's the bottom and vice versa, because that's going to be really important to figure out. Because you remember, on this TV, we want about 5 feet, and actually I decided 5 feet 2 inches to the bottom edge of the TV once we get it installed. Well, this is how we're going to have to do it. We got to figure out the back side, how that's all going to fit and all that. And I've already taken out the backing plate and I put that on. This is the backing plate here. And I looked at the directions, make sure you get it up, right side up and all that. And you have to, here's my arm piece. And I had to figure out how that's going to slide on here and all of that before I can get my measurements, So I looked at that before and kind of slid that on there. You have to, when you do that, you got to kind of hold this up and make sure, because at first I thought that might be wrong, and when I lifted it, pulled it, it's fine. And so I know this bracket assembly is the center of the TV. And when this arm goes over and gets bolted up to the wall, this piece here is going to be the piece that's bolted right up against the wall. Okay? So I've got to, remember I wanted the middle, so I had the bolt marked on the floor, but then I had to measure over from the center of that bracket to the center of this bracket so that that will tell me exactly what I need. Okay, so I measured over about 3 3/4 inches because this is the actual piece that's going to be bolted up to the wall. You see, once it goes up like that, this has to be bolted up to the wall. And the thing is, you can't just bolt that right to the sheetrock wall. We've got to find the studs, right? And I'll show you how to figure that out. Okay, so we know 3 3/4 over. All right? So now we'll go back down to the carpet, show you what we do next. It's day 2 of the project. I made my material list the other day. I figured out everything. I pulled the TV out of the box and I kind of looked at that. I kind of got my bearings on understanding how it goes in. And then I went to the store and got all my materials. So now I'm ready to show you how it's done.